Hi, my name is Rachel. I'm a student in the College of the Environment, and today I'm going to be presenting my capstone titled The Contention in the Conservation of the Western Stellar Sea Lion. Starting off with some background, stellar sea lion are a struggling species in Alaska, and while the two largest stocks both went through recent declines, the western stock has yet to recover despite conservation efforts. Another component of this conservation case is stakeholders have historically held differing views on why the western stellar sea lion have failed to recover, which results in a lot of contention among stakeholder groups. The failure of recovery measures and differing stakeholder opinions emphasizes the need for further research. This leads into my research question: what are the social, economic, and environmental factors that caused the most recent decline in the western stock of stellar sea lion in Alaska, and how did the opinions vary among stakeholders? Last winter, I entered at NOAA in the Marine Mammal Lab under Katie Sweeney and Berlin Berkmeyer, where I helped lab research stellar sea lion in Alaska. My main task was helping them to obtain an accurate species count, which I did by assessing aerial imagery processed with an AI algorithm to identify sea lions by age and sex classes. While I was interning at NOAA, I also conducted my own research, which I collected in two ways. First, I analyzed peer-reviewed literature to learn more about the decline. After some research, I found that the five largest stakeholders in the case were government employees, people working in academia, people working in industry/fisheries, natives to the Alaskan region, and NGOs. Based off my findings, I decided to split my analysis into those five main stakeholder groups. After establishing the main stakeholder groups, I started in on my second method of data collection, interviews with stakeholders. Over the course of the quarter, I conducted interviews with stakeholders where I asked them a variety of questions about the western stellar sea lion. Moving on to my results, I was surprised to learn that there isn't a straightforward answer to my question, and the cause of the most recent decline is still largely unknown. With that said, there are four main factors/hypotheses stakeholders believe likely contributed to the decline. The first is the environmental change hypothesis, which says changes in the natural environment, such as regime shifts, abnormal temperatures, and changes in ecosystem composition had a negative impact on the population. The second hypothesis is the predation hypothesis, specifically predation by killer whales contributed to the decline. The third hypothesis is competition with fisheries, which states U.S. fisheries depleted the Alaskan ecosystem's fish supply, which led to nutritional stress for the population. Last hypothesis is the contaminants hypothesis, which says the exposure to contaminants such as mercury, PCBs, and HCBs harmed the population. To address the second part of my research question, the patterns I observed among stakeholder opinions are displayed in Figure 2. The numbers in parentheses indicate the number of observations from each stakeholder group, and these observations include a combination of literature reviews and interviews. As you can see, I was unable to get a perfectly even sample, as there wasn't as much literature from some of the groups, and some groups were more willing to be interviewed than others. While there is a significant pattern in the figure, it highlights the diversity of opinion among stakeholders. During my research, I observed there seemed to be three main points of contention. The first being the effect fisheries and industry is having on the stellar sea lion population. An anonymous stakeholder noted during their interview that Alaskan fisheries make up the largest percentage of fisheries in the US, and this happens to be where the most stellar sea lion live. If an issue has to do with the economy, there's often much more contention and investment in the issue. So this may be one of the many reasons why this is one of the biggest points of contention. Another point of contention had to do with the validity of the predation hypothesis. Another stakeholder noted during the interview that when we started to see stellar sea lion rebound in the early 2000s, the places the population was rebounding the fastest were the places with the highest percentage of orcas. So this hypothesis just doesn't make sense. And then the last debate I observed was if contaminants pose as a real danger to the population, and this hypothesis is the least researched, so stakeholder groups seem to be skeptical of its importance and its likelihood in contributing to the decline. In response to my research question, ultimately, it is likely one or more of the hypotheses contributed to the recent decline. Stakeholders are very divided on the root cause and to support the hypotheses that protect their private interests. I also want to emphasize the fact that this research project was a small sample and does not represent the diverse opinion of an entire stakeholder group. Lastly, I discovered there are four key solutions/next steps we can be taking to aid in the western stellar sea lion's recovery. First is obtaining more funding. This is integral to discovering why the population declined in the first place and necessary to implement recovery measures. Second is focusing more on ecosystem-based management. Ecosystems are very interconnected, and there are many benefits to managing species by looking at the whole system rather than just to individuals. Whatever is causing the stellar sea lion decline may be reducing population numbers for other species in the ecosystem. Ecosystem-based management will allow us to protect many species in the ecosystem at the same time. Third is focusing more on sustainable fisheries management. It's important to focus on how we are sustaining the current fish population, as well as the impact fishing is having on the rest of the ecosystem. A sustainable fish supply is important because it lowers the likelihood of nutritional stress for the stellar sea lion population, as well as other species in the ecosystem. Lastly, it's important we cultivate stakeholder dialogue. I think sometimes stakeholders forget they're ultimately fighting for the same cause. Open conversations about the best way to manage the population that honors the private interests of all stakeholders would likely be very productive. And finally, I just wanted to thank a couple of people. First, I want to thank Katie Berlin and Professor Thompson for making my capstone experience so meaningful and for helping me to further develop my research. And then I also wanted to thank all my friends and family for supporting me through capstone and my time at UW.